Hey folks, Grant from Gunspot here for the armorylife.com. In today's video, we're going to be talking about shooting from the support side. Okay, in today's video, we're going to be shooting support side, and for me, that means I'm going to be shooting left-handed. So I am definitely in line with 90-ish% of society, and to be honest, not much am I really good at doing left-handed. And part of that is because there are so many of us right-handers. Most every control is set up on our behalf, and so it can be a challenge for right-handers to make that switch. Not that it's any less difficult for lefties to make the switch to right, but the reason that we need to practice this is for that situation where maybe a hand is injured or it gets tied up in the fight. And so part of our practice definitely needs to incorporate support hand only use, or in the case of a rifle, maybe support side shoulder for use of cover. And so when we do that, one of the biggest challenging things, aside from our loss of dominant dexterity, is getting your dominant eye into alignment with the sight. So the amount of effort that you've made to present your gun efficiently, and it just comes naturally to line up the sights when it's in your dominant hand, now becomes a bigger challenge. Almost like if you were a first-time shooter, now it's all that again once we go into that support hand side. Okay, so realistically, we're probably not going to have this luxury of just an easy switch of the hands. We're probably going to be picking the gun up out of the dirt if we're putting it in our support hand side, or maybe that hand's been injured before the gun ever leaves the holster. So it behooves us that we not only practice the exercise of shooting with our support hand, but we also need to practice the draw, which can be a challenge depending on what type of holster and the carry position that you're carrying from. Open carry is probably one of the more easy. Appendix is quite easy if you ask me, because we have good dexterity control to the front of our body. The further the gun moves behind us, the more difficult drawing with your support hand side becomes. So we really are going to have to practice it even more so if we're carrying back hip or small of the back, which I don't suggest, but I know there are folks out there that do it. So what I advise people to do is, first off, don't run when you need to be walking. Don't walk when you need to crawl. So what I mean by that is be safe as you're trying anything new, especially when it comes to firearms. So what I typically tend to do is, if I'm learning something new or it's been a long time and I've been lazy in my practice and I'm gonna be rusty, I start with an empty gun. So now that my gun is empty, I'm gonna practice drawing from a tactical drop holster here using only my support hand. So I'm gonna reach across, I'm gonna get a good purchase, I'm gonna make sure my pinky doesn't enter the trigger guard. I'm going to pull the gun free, and then I'm going to reposition between my knees. Now this is only one technique that you can use. Some people choose to capture the gun in the back of the knee and pinch. You can also do reloads real nicely from that. Of course, it requires you kind of becoming very, very static and hunkered down to the ground, which might be great, especially if you had cover or concealment, but it really is going to be dependent upon the circumstance that you're in. For speed, I'm probably just going to pinch it between my knees and roll that support hand to the gun, and then I'm back ready to exercise my presentation onto target with my support hand. So, support hand side isn't just about shooting, it isn't just about presenting. We're also going to have to be fairly proficient in either correcting malfunctions or reloading the gun from that. Now, I would say reloading is probably less of a importance as the actual shooting part. In combat, I may never even make it to a mag change. So I would probably need to prioritize the shooting component first, but I also need to be proficient in reloads. Now, one of the nice things about the XDM handgun is it has ambidextrous controls. I can drop that magazine from either side of the gun. I also have a slide release on both sides of the gun, so it isn't a gun that's just exclusively for right-handed shooters like a lot of firearms out there. It really was thought out for both right-sided people and wrong-sided people. Just kidding, lefties. But you can access the controls on this gun. To reload one-handed, though, again, we're assuming that this hand is out of the fight from whatever it may be, injury, or you're in a struggle with an opponent. If you're in a struggle with an opponent, I'm probably not going to do a mag change. I'm probably going to turn into, feeding them the gun as an impact weapon. But if I am having to reload this gun one-handed, it kind of comes back into that same technique of securing the gun between my knees or in the back of my knee, and then retrieving the next mag with that support hand, and then I can return to active firing on the target. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about one-handed operation is going to be correcting malfunctions, and there's really two types we're going to cover today. The first, we are setting up via a snap cap or a dummy round in the mag. So we're going to shoot until we get that, and then we're going to walk ourselves through the process of clearing that one-handed. Here we go. So I obviously hit the snap cap. It clicked versus bang. We can tell the gun is not out of battery. What typically is the cause of this could be a limp wrist situation, but most likely it's a magazine that's came unseated. And as the slide traveled back forward after extraction, it did not pick up the next live round, so we typically are going to have an empty chamber in here when we get that audible or felt click versus ignition and bang. So what I teach and what I believe is the best technique for correcting this, both one-handed or two-handed, is tap rack bang. So I'm going to tap the magazine to make sure the magazine is properly seated. And for my case, speed-wise, the fastest way is for me to probably impact the bottom of the magazine with my knee or thigh or something around me to help seat that magazine. Remember, this is tied up or injured, so I really can't use my bloody stump or whatever that I would normally when I have two functional hands. The next thing is I need to charge the gun to get either the bad round out or to fill out of the fresh mag. When I don't have that support hand to help me in this function, I'm going to have to find something to help me reciprocate that slide. This is where a good solid belt, if you're running concealed carry or in a duty application, really comes into play. A good quality set of irons or a sturdy red dot pistol sight works fantastic for this function as well. So after the tap, next comes the racking of the slide. off of the belt or some item that you can get traction against, and then we follow up. If we still need to shoot after all that, then we can find the target, aim on the target, and get our hits. So next we're going to talk about the double feed or stovepipe type of clearance, one-handed with your support hand side. Of course, everything gets harder when it's this hand on the gun or non-dominant hand. I can tap, rack, bang this thing all day long, and I'm not going to solve anything with it. It's just going to sit there and laugh at me, and of course, I'm going to lose the fight as I'm focused here when my thread is putting rounds into me. So, what I typically teach folks to do, if your gun will allow it, and you can utilize the sight, whether it be iron sight or a sturdy red dot sight to manipulate the slide rearward, at the same time hitting your magazine release, you can save a couple steps here of locking the slide to the rear. That doesn't always work on every gun. So we're going to kind of go right to what does work in 99.9% of the time. So again, it's great that we have ambi controls on this XDM to allow for this. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to take my left thumb, in my case, I'm going to apply upward pressure on the slide release lever. I'm going to catch the slide on my mag pouch, locking the slide to the rear. Then I'm going to release the magazine, and you saw that it was a little bit wedged in there from around half out of the magazine and kind of binding it up. I was able to clear it with a little bit of momentum. At this point, I'm not ready to fight again. I'm not ready to reload to fight again. I have to still clear that round that's stuck in the chamber. So to do that, I'm going to have to drop the slide and then go back to my belt and clear that malfunction. Then from there, I go back, I pinch, I insert magazine, I come in, I charge the gun again, and then I can take aim on the target and get my hit. All right, so that's pretty much the basics of support hand shooting, support hand reloads, and support hand malfunction clearances. Of course, there are harder and harder malfunctions out there that are rarer, that could take a little bit other operation to fix, but those are the ones you're going to run into the most. If you're a new or a novice shooter, I definitely wouldn't start out shooting one-handed and doing reloads and malfunction clearances with live rounds. I would invest in some dummy rounds. They're out there, they're readily available, and they're fairly inexpensive. They're great for dry fire practice only, but they're also great for clearing malfunctions and really doing the more detailed things that you could be apt to make a mistake if your skill in manipulating the gun isn't at that higher level. So get out there and practice with your support hand.
Hey there, don't close this video out yet. First of all, let me thank you for watching this video on the Armory Life. Now what I want you to do is head over to our Gunspot YouTube channel, watch some videos, and be sure to subscribe over there. Gun-related channels like ours need your help to grow, so help us grow our channel. Go check it out.